Today we are going to walk you guys through what an average XC race day looks like.
Hi everyone, if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back to our channel. If you're new, I'm Sid.
And I am Mackie. And today we are going to walk you guys through what an average XC race day looks like. We've had a ton of questions from people being like, you know, I'm not actually that worried about the race. I'm mostly worried about everything else.
Which is totally legitimate.
Totally legitimate.
Totally
and something we hadn't really thought about. Like, we've been doing this for so long that we're like, yeah, you gotta focus on the race. But like, really, it's all the other stuff that can be really scary.
We know it's gonna come up in the comments, so first off, yes, we are wearing taco, burrito, hoodies. They're from Psychological. We will pin a link in the comments. These days, for most mountain bike races, you will probably register online. It's pretty straightforward most of the time.
Yeah, basically the race will have a website and it will have a register button and you will click it. The one confusing thing is deciding what category.
Yeah, and you'll have to decide at this point. Usually there will be an option where you'll select your categories.
The general idea is you will usually have a pro or open category, and that's the highest category. Then you will have a export or Cat 1 category. That's the next
stands
highest.
For Category 1.
Category
it has
1.
nothing to do with cats.
It had nothing to do with the cats, but everything to do
sort
with
of a
categories.
shame.
Yes. You get one cat in this category. It'll go pro, and then expert or Cat 1, and then sport or Cat 2, and then beginner or Cat 3.
Yeah.
And if this is your first ever mountain bike race, just sign up for Cat 3 or beginner.
Yeah,
because like, you know, if people are like, oh my gosh, you beat us by so much, like,
you can.
That's okay. You're like, this is my first ever race. I wanted to see where I was.
Go up another category, or the lingo is cat up.
Yes, you can cat up.
Another question we get is, should you pre-ride for a cross-country race?
Good question.
The answer is pre-riding always helps. However, it's a lot different than an enduro race. It is not like sink or swim whether you pre-ride for a cross-country race, especially a smaller local race. You probably get away without pre-riding. There are, however, some advantages to doing so.
One good reason to pre-ride is to just have an idea of what the course looks like. And this is not like you're like scoping lines, because in most cross-country races, everything will be rideable by everyone. So like, you will be able to ride it blind without risk of serious injury. So it's just like, oh, okay, I know that the lap is gonna take about this long, or I know that this climb is gonna take about this long. And it really helps on race day when you're racing and you're like, oh, I've been on this climb before. I know that it doesn't go on for 100 million zillion years.
I also have this theory that climbs are always shorter the second time.
True.
They do. They always feel shorter the second time.
They do feel shorter the second time. So that's a really good reason.
Which is funny, because like, you'd think it would make it feel longer because you know how far away the top is.
Yeah, but then you know how far away the top is. You're like, it's just right up there. Like, it may be long, but at least it doesn't go on indefinitely.
So part of pre-riding for XC is also figuring out where you're going to do things like eat and drink. So for me, this is a pretty good spot because there's an uphill. I can get my bottle out, get a good couple chugs, and then get it back in before it starts going downhill again.
Usually they will announce the course a couple weeks ahead of time. So if you go and pre-ride maybe a week ahead, that'll give you an idea of like, is this a course that I feel comfortable on, that I would enjoy? Do I want to do this race? So you can even pre-ride before you register. And just a nice way to know, like, is this the kind of race that I actually want to do? The next thing that you will do is go to packet pickup. Packet pickup will usually be the night before or the evening before, someplace fairly close to the venue. This is where you will actually get your race number. They will tell you where and how you are supposed to install it. Usually it's just a standard, like, on the front handlebars so they can see it as you're crossing the finish line.
We just picked up our swag bags and at registration. This is like the best swag bag. You guys aren't gonna believe it. There's green chili in the swag bag. I love racing in New Mexico. It's so great. And some pinon coffee. I mean, this day is off to a really good start. This registration or packet pickup or registration, good time to ask any questions that you might have regarding
anything.
Yeah, don't be afraid of asking
Yeah.
dumb questions. There are no dumb questions.
There are no dumb questions.
Actually, there are tons of dumb questions, but probably like not the ones you're gonna ask.
Probably not, yeah.
So morning of the race, you're gonna wanna make sure you get to the race venue with plenty of time.
Plenty of time.
Sometimes parking can be a little stressful if it's a small venue and a lot of people are coming. So make sure you allot some time for unexpected things like traffic, parking,
Long lines at the
lines at the
port-a-potties.
bathroom. Usually not an issue for women if there's a women's restroom.
I may have
Thanks
missed
to
a
the
race
gender
start
gap.
once because I was using the port-a-potty.
Mackey was in the porta-potty
Don't
and the
do
race
that.
left without
Don't
him.
want to do that.
Which brings up a good point. There will always be
There will always
bathrooms.
be bathrooms.
You can see right there porta potties. So yes, race promoters will always have a bathroom.
That does not mean that there won't be a line or a wait or a lack of toilet paper. So bringing your own toilet paper, not
Never
the
a
worst
bad
idea.
Next up, you are going to want to warm up. This is not necessary. You don't have to warm up, but I promise you will be so much happier if you warm up. And at a very minimum, like spend 15, 20 minutes just pedaling around on your bike. Try to go a little bit hard a couple times so your heart rate gets up, because then when the race starts and like everybody goes and you're sprinting because you're really excited, you're not like, wow, this is the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, my heart rate already went up and I feel okay now. Here's generally what our warm-up looks like. This is a fairly long warm-up and we are racing at the very top level. So we're not saying you should necessarily do this, but it gives you an idea of kind of what you want to do. So we will spin easy for like 10 or 15 minutes. Then we'll do like a 5-minute effort at an intensity of about 7. Then we'll spin easy for a couple minutes to recover. We'll go really hard, like as hard as we can for a minute. Couple minutes easy again. 3 minutes fairly hard, a little bit of recovery, and then 30-second as hard as we can, and then like cool down before the race.
There might be a race meeting right before the start.
It will usually go something like this. Welcome to the race. We're going to start at the time that we already told you we were going to start. Yay!
But it does give an option if there are any questions or if there have been any changes in the course due to weather or trail conditions or whatever. So you do want to make sure you get to the start line. Even if there isn't a meeting, you want to get to the start line 10 to 15 minutes before the race starts.
So with a cross-country race, it is a mass start, which means everybody in your category is starting together. And sometimes when the categories are smaller, they will combine them. Sometimes they'll have like all the women across like the pro and cat 1 categories. They'll all start together, and they'll frequently do that for the guys also. The pros and cat 1s will start together. Sometimes the entire race starts together, depending on like if it's a pretty small local race or not.
Regardless of whether the race is all together, you might want to start with other people in your category.
You definitely
Or
want to do that.
wait until you hear your category called up. We're not going to talk too much about race strategy because that depends entirely on you and your skill set and fitness and the race course. So that's really personal. One thing we did want to touch on is passing and being passed, because especially at a smaller XC race, that's probably going to happen a lot. Especially if there are wave starts. So maybe you're catching the category ahead of you or the category behind you is catching you.
The goal of racing bikes is to like meet cool people and make friends and find new riding buddies, and a great way to screw that up is to be a jerk.
Yeah, don't be a jerk.
So don't be a jerk.
Only bike racing.
So let's pretend that Sid is passing me. So I'm in front of Sid, I'm riding.
That's funny.
And then Sid comes up behind me. I might be surprised because when you're facing forward, you can't hear somebody behind you.
So I come up behind Mackey and I'd say, can I get by you when you have a good spot?
If we can, right here, we'll sneak by you.
You want to acknowledge that you've heard them.
Yeah.
So when Sid says like, hey, I'm behind you, can I pass? You say, I hear you, I'm looking for a spot.
Give us a second here, you're gonna go left. Okay.
And then she knows like she doesn't have to yell again or try to get by me. You don't have to immediately slam on the brakes and pull off the trail, especially if there's something dangerous. You don't want to crash because that'll
number
hurt
one rule,
you.
Don't crash
Trying to get out of the way.
trying to get out of the way or trying to pass someone.
No.
It's not worth it.
So then you're riding and you're like, oh, here's a good spot. And you pull off. You get off your bike if you need to. If there's like a wide spot, you can just pull off and keep riding. And then Sid can go by and she yells.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're gonna sneak by in here. Awesome, thank you very much.
Again, not talking too much about race strategy, but one thing we do want to touch on is for a cross-country race, you will want to bring food and water with you in a format that you can get to. So if you're not good at getting to your bottle, wear a pack. You don't have to look cool. No one cares.
No one cares.
Literally no one cares.
So our basic recommendation is a bottle, which is about 24, 25 ounces every hour.
Yeah.
And that could be just plain water, or that could be hydration mix. We use the Scratch Active Hydration, works really well for us.
If you are using something, make sure it's something that you've had before and that you've used while you were riding before, so that you know you're not going to get an upset stomach.
It's best to not just try to chug the entire thing at one time. That's very hard to do. Instead, every 15 or 20 minutes, try to reach down and take like a good squirt of water or mix, and then, you know, put your bottle back or suck on your hose or whatever. But you want to do it regularly because your body has a harder time processing it if it's all at one time. Most cross-country races are probably going to be in the hour to hour and a half range. If it's longer than an hour, you're going to want some solid food. We use Scratch's energy chews. We really like those. Whatever works for you, but just something that you can get to easily, that sits well with you, and you want to do that every probably half hour.
Don't bonk.
Don't, it's bad. It's not good. Once the race is done, you're going to want to cool down just a little bit. Once again,
Otherwise,
you don't have to do this.
Sore.
But yeah, just 10 minutes of easy spinning makes a huge difference for the next day. And then there'll be awards, and whether or not you are on the podium, usually they do top 3 in each category, you should hang out because it's nice to support the other racers. Also, this is a perfect time to like chat with the other people you were racing with. You might find people who you've never met before who live close to you and want to ride with you.
People to ride with. And there might be food.
And there might be food, which is awesome.
I'm not guaranteeing food. Like we can't guarantee that there'll be food, but sometimes there's food.
Yeah, sometimes there's food.
Stick around for the food. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see this in action, check out this.
We'll put it over my head.
Yeah,
this video.
Check out this.
Check out this.
Oh yeah. Check out this video to see this in action as we do some XC racing.
And until next time, don't forget to
be
more
awesome.